Guy in the chair ready?
And call this evening's meeting to order, Tuesday, June 3rd, Chancellorsville School District Board of Directors, our regular meeting. Please rise and join me for pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, prior to this evening's meeting, the board met in executive session to discuss personnel and legal matters. Item 2.03, a motion and second, please, to adopt this evening's agenda. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Haydick, second by Mr. McKee. With a K. Questions, discussions, additions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved. 3.01, President's Report. First off, congratulations for lots of folks. Congratulations to the new graduates. The Magnet School, 169?
60.
60-ish. And the high school, and I don't know that number. Help me.
555.
550. So congratulations to all the seniors. 13 years of education, and wherever your next path is, whether that's furthering your education, entering the workforce, and an extra special shout out to those who have chosen to serve their country immediately after high school. So, and congratulations to the staff and teachers, the completion of another successful year. We'll get to wait for a couple months to see what kind of test results look like. But it was another successful year. And my third congratulations tonight is, you know, there was a primary election here a couple weeks ago to all the candidates who ran, to all those candidates who successfully have moved on to the next round of the election. I'll share it publicly and I share it privately, jokingly. Myself included was up for election this year. This will be my fourth election, and I've never had an opponent. And I tell people, I don't understand that sign. That's either I'm just the crazy one who's lost my mind again, or maybe I'm doing something right that they just don't want to run against me. But hard to tell.
Can I answer that?
Sure. And I'm sure, you know, that's one thing about being a school board member up here. You know, sometimes they love you and sometimes they hate you. It all depends on what the topic is. So with that, one more thing as far as business to talk about, coming up here over the summer, we'll eventually have a public board discussion on the school calendar. Mr. Bigger has done some public forums. I've mentioned it previously, I think the past 2 months in my president's comments. The time will come when the board will also have that public discussion on the school calendar, which any revisions would be for the 26-27 school year. Mr. Bigger.
Thank you, Mr. Norcross. Echo the graduation and thanks to those behind the scenes. I'm going to name a few. Luann Cunningham and Angie Garland for the CMS graduation, and certainly Sean Stinger for the practices and organization to make it flow. And then Ian Jacobson, Gloria, do the heavy lift. I don't know if I missed anybody there. What's that? Kelly, yep. In the office, and then thank Brad for an excellent graduation as well. So thanks to all those people behind the scenes that don't get credit, but there's a lot of excitement and organization into setting up a graduation that to the audience has a nice flow to it. I do want to note on the information on the board agenda, enrollment. It's one thing we continue to pay attention to. We're up a little over 100 students in elementary, but interestingly enough, following our demographic studies, we're down 100 students in secondary. So we're net neutral if you look at May to May data so far. So far that trend is continuing to follow what the feasibility study has said. Actually, it's a little bit down. We would grow 100 kids a year was the estimated average over time. I did notice there were 74 more placements outside the district, and many of them were cyber student placements. So that's where our biggest increase would be for students who are not educated in our schools. The digital newsletter came out for June. It went live, I believe, today. It'll be in the mailboxes and home in the next 3 weeks. And that's a continuation on our path of schools of distinction. It's updates on the actions we've made so far. And if you're paying attention to the newsletters, they do follow a storyline from newsletter to newsletter. So hopefully you can see the storyline and pay attention to the changes in the school district over time. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Bigger. 4.01, technology. Mrs. Wogelmuth, or who's leading us off?
She is. Yep. This is the last on the series of presentations that we decided as a group were most important to you. Guy in the chair, okay? Okay.
Just don't pull the wires. Don't unplug the wires.
If you remember, the board received a whole list of topics, and you selected those of high interest, and this would be the last for this year of the high interest topics. This one on AI and data and technology in general. Last one, if you remember, was CVA and attendance. So we'll redo a list for next year and do the same process of new information you would like to have on whatever topic they may be. So thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, good evening. I'm Christine Wogelmuth. I'm our Director of Technology. We're excited to share a presentation this evening. Also helping present will be Dave Kirkpatrick, who had his eloquent entry. And also, he is our network administrator, and also Jonathan Michael, he's our digital learning specialist as well. So first, before I start, I want to say thank you to the board for your support and for the funding of our iPads and our Chromebooks. And we're very appreciative of that, and we will be getting those out for K-8, the Chromebooks, next year. So just wanted to say a quick thank you before I started. What we're going to focus on is we will be focusing on, remember this graphic in the end with the last slide. We have 4 major goals as we're moving forward. And in the presentation, we will go through each of those goals, and those tie to the alignment of schools of distinction. So. First, a little bit about technology services and our department. We have 4 different service areas for our department, and we are very unique in the fact that we have both an educational side and a technical side. We serve all of the students, all the staff, even contracted. We serve our board, parents, all buildings and programs. When looking back, since 2020, our inventory has grown by 19,000. So those are learning opportunities for our students. Additional support needed since 2020, and things that we've been involved with is our Go Guardian, which is filtering, Clever, which is rostering, and going down the list, a number of items that support our one-to-one.
Good evening. I'll talk about this next focus for our department, and that is finding ways to use technology to enhance student learning experiences. So we're going to cover this by saying the why, what, and how of technology in the classroom. And we're going to start off with the why technology in the classroom on our next slide. That's all right. So first off, why we use technology. It's important because it does tie into our vision of anytime, anywhere learning. And it's an essential part of trying to find ways to expand curriculum access, enhance student learning, and also just build capacity for our students in our 21st century skills. So as you can see, some of the ways we use this technology for the why is to increase a collaboration between student to student, finding ways for differentiated instruction, deepening student learning opportunities, finding new ways for students to showcase their knowledge in creative and innovative ways, And even those students that may need it, we have accessibility options there for them with assistive technologies for like speech to text, text to speech, and even translation services. And then finally, really building up our digital literacy to prepare our students for a technology-driven workforce. Now next, we want to talk about the what. We're very fortunate in our district to offer a wide variety of devices, tools, and resources for our students. And as you can see there, we're in many different platforms such as Microsoft, Google, and Apple. We have iPads and Chromebooks, and a variety of different programs and resources there. One thing we strive to do when we're selecting each and every one of these different options is working closely with our curriculum and instruction department to ensure that everything that we select lines up with our learning outcomes and goals for our students and really aligns with our goals as a district. One big part of that is when selecting specific software and programs is we vet each and every one along with federal guidelines to ensure student safety and privacy of data. And then finally, the how is probably the most important, is how do we utilize this technology effectively in the classroom? And so as we know with blended learning, technology is not always the best option, but when it is deemed appropriate by the teacher, we want them to use this model called the SAMR model to make sure it's used to enhance the learning and the instruction. So what this is just an intentional approach that when technology is used, they're doing things such as substitution, which is just a substitution of tools, all the way up to redefining what's even a possibility in the classroom itself by students demonstrating their learning in new and creative ways. And so it's really a purposeful and intentional way of utilizing that technology. So that's the model we use with our teachers and strive for success for them. I'm going to pass this back to Christine to talk more about our data with technology as well.
Okay, so we're going to talk about data quality. Data quality is the management and the ongoing process of identifying and rectifying errors and inconsistencies and inaccuracies in our data. So a little bit about data quality and what we look at for data quality. Along the right side where you see the visual, we look for validity, ensuring that it's accurate, that there's consistency amongst our data, also completeness to make sure that it's whole and that it's all accounted for, and also timeliness is very important as well. So you might ask, why is data quality crucial for us? It is going to support, and when we look at things, the allocation of resources and making informed policies and what our needs are. A lot has to do with accurate data. We have data dashboards, so a lot of those items that you see for data quality, such as student performance, tracking student progress and grades and those type of things, very important. It also helps with transparency and accountability, and also builds trust amongst our educators and parents and the community as well. So some examples, if we could go back, of how that would look and why it's important and what that translates into. So for example, one thing, if you're talking about security, how many kids are in attendance for a day? If there was an event or something that happened, we would want to know that information. How many English language learners do we have? Things that we've talked about in here. How much reimbursement for special ed, E-rate, or access all comes from our data. And what's our enrollment and programmatic data needed for construction? So just trying to give some real life examples, and also the technology needs for iPads and Chromebooks. So for our data, our main database of record is Sapphire. We have manual inputs. That's the data that we put into Sapphire. We have automation as well. So the automated data feeds, you can see examples of those. And then our outputs as well. All software that the district utilizes must be rostered. So the Clever/OneRoster one, maybe one you might not have heard of, and that is what that does. It uploads our student names to various software programs so we have our kids enrolled. We use Sapphire to funnel and make sense of our data. We organize and collect data, we track data, and then we take that and we analyze it as well to ensure that we're on track with student learning. You can see that this comes in many different forms. There's many other bubbles that we don't have up there as well. So where are we going with our data? When looking at technology, we're very connected to the curriculum side. So we are looking to integrate various systems, such as Sapphire plus our learning management system. That is going to be either Schoology or Google Classroom. And adding automation to that will save time. That also translates having that data there for our teachers and our staff to classroom level data in Sapphire. A unified learning management system in secondary is crucial. That'll allow us to customize learning and close achievement gaps. And then also technology, as far as the bottom one, single sign-on and aggregated data dashboards allows us to analyze and have data-driven decisions. And when I talk about aggregated data, that's taking data from different sources and like the different buckets that you saw and combining them and then making sense of it. So it gives us richer data then.
Next, another area of focus I think is the most fun, but is the finding ways to innovate with cutting-edge technologies. And a recent example we've done is with our work with STEM and those resources adding into the classroom and libraries to give those students those opportunities. But this evening we're going to focus on one that's probably the elephant in the room for innovative technologies, and that is artificial intelligence. So, just a quick aside, the definition of artificial intelligence is just simply technology that allows a computer to simulate human learning, thinking, comprehension, and even creativity. So with that, ways we're using this in the classroom we find it beneficial in education is personalized learning. So these programs can identify students where they are and give them challenges that meet their needs. Enhanced accessibility, similar to what we talked about before with the use of technology with those speech-to-text, text-to-speech, translation services that are there to help our students. Engaging and motivating them with gamified tools and enhanced instruction that way. Data-driven insights, being able to talk with our data, to have conversations with it, identify trends, find gaps, and make improvements for our students as well in the classroom. 24/7 learning support. Just think of an AI tutor. We're looking at some tools now that would be able for students at any time to be able to have those conversations and questions about the things they're learning. And the tools we're looking at, it doesn't ever give them answers. It just prompts them through the thought process to help them, just like a tutor would. So those are just some of the options that are out there. And streamlining tasks and saving time. Some of the tools our teachers are using now are ways for them to rewrite an email, create a newsletter, have a thought partner to find new ways for activities in the classroom. So some pretty nice things that we're seeing with AI in the classroom. I'm going to pass this back to Christine to talk a little bit more about our policy and some of the other things we're doing in the district.
Okay, Ben, in front of you if you could pass those down, please. And Mark over there on that side, and I think everybody else, you had yours in the back. Okay, so this is a copy of the AI policy. We're going to start off with a quick sound clip.
This was sent home in the winter newsletter.
Okay, so today we're diving deep
Yes.
into something that's going to affect all of us right here in Chambersburg.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal, especially for anyone involved with the Chambersburg Area School District.
It is. We're talking about the school district's brand new AI policy, artificial intelligence.
Definitely something everyone on the school board and really all the parents and teachers needs to understand.
Absolutely. I mean, this is going to impact our students in a huge way.
It will. How we use AI in the classroom, in the administration building, it's all changing.
And this policy, they adopted it back on September 24th of last year. It really tries to find that balance, you know.
A balance between using this really powerful technology, but in a responsible way.
Exactly. We want to harness the good stuff that AI can do for education.
But also making sure we're protecting our kids.
Yeah, their privacy, their data, all of that.
That's where this policy comes in. It lays out how we do it all safely and ethically right here in Chambersburg.
Right.
Okay. So that is a podcast that describes, and it's a conversation, it describes the whole AI policy. It's interesting to listen to. The thing that I want to reveal to you is that was all done in AI. That wasn't Jonathan or I doing that, so I wanted to let you know. Very cool feature and things that you can do with it, so we just wanted to demo that. I also think it's interesting in talking about how many years it took to get to 50 million users. For an airplane, it was 68 years. For the internet, it was 7 years. For Facebook, it was 3 years. For generative AI, 5 weeks to get to 50 million users. It's something that's moving very, very quickly. So we are very fortunate, as Chris was saying. We sent this out in our last community newsletter. And we have a policy put together. I like to call this policy our red light method that helps our staff and our students use AI tools responsibly and ethically. It helps our teachers be clear to when to utilize AI, when to slow down, or you'll see at the very top, the red light, no AI. So it gives them guidelines so we're using it safely and we're using it responsibly. And part of that is, with our policy, is also promoting academic integrity and having safeguards for data privacy as well. So what have we done so far? We have developed and we've communicated out our policy. We have formed an AI task force, and through the task force, we're going to be addressing the leveraging AI as a tool, AI literacy, all of those safeguards we were talking about, its impact on education, its impact on students, and the professional development and educating both our students and our staff regarding AI. And the other part is the creation of an AI approval process. As Jonathan talked about earlier, we do vet all of our software. So a lot of software programs are adding AI to it, so that means we need to re-vet and make sure that it is safe and secure for our students and staff to use. Okay, so the next and the final goal is ensuring universal connectivity and robust cybersecurity, and I'm going to turn it over to Dave to talk about this portion.
So I promised that I was going to keep this really quick, and I will live up to that. Infrastructure update. We've done E-rate for years. Now is no different. We've done it for, gosh, probably 20 years. But this year we decided, actually it was last year when we did it, but this year the focus was upgrading the back-end infrastructure. And one of the things that we found during COVID was that when we started doing all the online learning, there was a lot of connectivity issues, speed issues, and different things like that. So we knew that we needed to address that. That was a big problem in the classroom, and we did. We went from 1 gig to 10 gig, and not only did we do that from the internet perspective, but also from the building perspective. Many of the buildings, we upgraded their connectivity as well. And of course, all that is to decrease downtime for learning and different things like that. Obviously, that's not a good thing when that occurs in the classroom. Cybersecurity, multi-factor authentication, which is just kind of the world we live in today. Anytime you use your credit card or banking or anything like that, you're confronted with that, and if you're not, you probably should be. So, but we've got that on all of our critical apps, all of our servers. That is something that we moved to over the past few years. SentinelOne, which is kind of the corporate version of Norton or McAfee or something like that. We also utilize that, and one of the big things that's great about SentinelOne is they also have a 24/7 monitoring and response system. That is huge because we do occasionally sleep, and they don't. So increased cybersecurity training and campaigns. One of the biggest risks that any corporation or any entity for that matter has are the users. They are the biggest security hole. KnowBe4 is what we utilize. We use campaigns that Diana Dittmar in our department, she organizes and sends out. It basically tests and educates people, all in the all for the effort of not having some of the stuff that we had happen a few years ago. Vulnerability assessment by the National Guard, this is upcoming. That is penetration testing, everything, the risks and all that type of thing that occur, they're ever evolving, all the vulnerabilities that surround that. It's a great resource that we can utilize them to do that, because this part of the National Guard, that's all they do. So that's an awesome resource. And I kept it quick, and I'm going to give it back to Christine.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, so how are our goals aligning to the blueprint? So we have listed each of our goals. This is a mapping that shows how all 4 of our main focus areas or goals are integrated and work moving from the traditional to the schools of distinction for each area. We also added STEM and AI, you will notice, in there, so they fall into alignment with our goals as well. And that is it. Do we have any questions?
Board members.
I have a question, if I may. Christine, thank you. That was very informative. I'm happy to hear that you're taking advantage of the National Guard capabilities. That's an awesome relationship, so that's good to hear. My question is with regard to something that Jonathan spoke about, the SAMR teaching model. Let's say a classroom where a teacher has some success in an area that is really, really working. How is that fed back to the district at large so that it can be adopted globally rather than just stuck in a silo?
You want to talk about that?
Sure, yes, thank you. We do have what we're renaming innovation teams at our different schools, where we kind of share out different successes that we see. We try to work closely with our administrators to find out what they're seeing in the classrooms as well. So we try to have that connectivity back and forth between the department and the teachers themselves to try to see where things are successful and try to replicate that in other areas. So we're working closely with our admin and our innovation teams there at each school to try to find those ways to do that. So very good question. Thank you. Absolutely.
Other questions?
I have a question, and you kind of already answered this, but can you give us an example of a staff member or an administrator reaching out to you and saying, I'm having this problem, or how does their professional development happen? How is programs that you're using, how are they chosen? What's the relationship? Is it ongoing? Because technology is changing every day, and it seems like you guys are really doing an amazing job, so thank you for that. I was really impressed with the fact that just how much AI has been incorporated and how far we've come in a very short amount of time.
Right.
So can you tell me, like, what's a day look like for you guys?
Never the same. There's always something happening. Regarding software, a lot of the times that's going to happen building level, department level. There's an interest. They get us involved. They submit what we call a service call and a tech request for it. And we have different guidelines regarding that. So then we get involved with it. So if they're having a demo of the product, then we're there and part of the team to give them feedback and the things that we're looking for. And you said a big one would be training materials and professional development as well. We're also looking for things like rostering. Do they provide that? Do they connect with the tools that we use? So there are a number of items that we look at. So that's kind of how the process works, and it's the same for hardware as well. They put in a request, and we go from there.
Thank you.
Yep. Lance?
I had a question on the National Guard. That was kind of threw me off a little bit. Is that, so they do an assessment that's free of charge? Is that a?
Absolutely, yeah, out of Fort Indiantown Gap. We have a contact there. They have a cybersecurity team that will come on site. They were supposed to come. They had to reschedule, and we are now scheduled for October for them to come. And yeah, I can send you like the materials if you're interested in it.
Okay. And they give suggestions on where maybe some of the
Yep, it's
gaps may be, or-
it's a vulnerability assessment. They are here for a week, trying to get into our network and all kinds of tests that they're running. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. That's
Yep.
good to know.
Yep.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question I had, we've had quite a few conversations, and I've had conversations outside of the meeting. I think many of us have had these kinds of conversations with parents concerned about the amount of screen time that kids have, right? So in the home, it's a challenge. It's also a challenge in the schools. So we've had some conversations over the years where Chris has said, hey, here's what the research says. I think you had said 10 minutes
Yeah,
per.
the old homework rule, 10 minutes times the age of the student
Right.
is maximum screen time.
So here's my question. Do you have data, or is it pronounced data? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I'm from northern Pennsylvania originally, and I say things different than everyone else.
So I'm curious to know, do you have data or data tracking? Like, could you know, hey, this fourth grader is actually within the classroom on using screens for 50 minutes more than they should in a week or in a day? Do you have that kind of data? Is there a way to use the technology to actually, make sure that we're using it at an appropriate level, or is that not something we have in place?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
We do have tracking data. It's not specifically for screen time, but we can see when they're on their Chromebooks. We can also see that through GoGuardian, and we can also track somewhat, not at an individual level, but more of a global level through our Google products and admin program.
A great example to that practically was when we evaluated keeping the Chromebooks in the school. I think Mark Long requested, or we received the information like, hey, let's find out what they're doing at home with the devices.
Sure.
And we found certainly they're all on YouTube and not on our educational platforms. So
Surprise.
that was part of the decision that says, hey, they're obviously not using it at home for educational reasons. Now that YouTube is not educational, but I'm sure they were in different places. So that was one of the major data decisions because we had the data. Hey, we can keep them in the school and folks are okay with that.
But in terms of total time, there's not a way to say it's being overused or maybe even underutilized possibly. I think the greater concern is probably for overutilization, not vice versa. But okay, so not currently.
Not
Well, I
currently,
think-
but sort of,
Yeah.
yeah.
You just
Okay.
can't, if you're on and in an app, you can't tell if the person's looking at it.
Right.
Just because they're on and it's there and up doesn't mean they're doing something with it. So I think that's the raw part of the data that I would worry about, overjudging,
right.
just
Sure.
assuming they're staring at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I taught business ed, so I was in a lab, so my kids always had
Right.
their screens up, but I would say turn off the monitor and focus on me right now, where I'm gonna, give you some direct instruction, and then we'll get back to this.
Sure.
So that's hard to tell in that sense.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
And I think just last related to that, can you talk about GoGuardian added to the secondary devices now that wasn't possible before?
Yeah, GoGuardian had an update, and they now, previously, we weren't able to use it with the iPads, and now, Dave left, he's behind, but, yeah. Dave and Scott Estep, they are working with the vendor, and we're going to have them on the iPad, so we can do the same kind of tracking on the iPads as well. We're very excited about that. Any other questions?
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Wogomuth.
Thank you so much.
Jonathan and Dave, thank you. Item 5.01, privilege of the floor. Members of the audience are invited to comment on agenda items. I think we have 12 in the audience. I have 9 signed in, but don't worry, if you didn't sign in, you can still speak if you wish. But Aaron Atherton, a definite maybe?
Yeah, actually, because I have questions addressing it. Aaron Atherton. My question actually is regarding all of the technology stuff then. If the kids are getting new computers and new iPads, are they still going to stay in school? My question being then, my son does choir, or chorus, he does band, he does orchestra. He's almost never in activities period. He has to do Map Accelerator, so he doesn't get to do it hardly ever in school. Means he has to do it at home. I log into my personal computer or on my phone to do it, which then pops up GoGuardian on my stuff at home because he can't bring his computer home to do it. And if we go on vacation, he's logging into my computer and stuff to be trying to keep up with his schoolwork, which he does. But it was much easier when he brought his computer home. He was the one that only did schoolwork on his computer, and his probably came back pristine from kindergarten to 5th grade. He was the exception to that. But can computers, if need be sent home with kids if they're responsible, I guess?
Yeah, Mr. Bigger will respond to that. He'll get back in touch with you. Thank you. Any other members of the public comment on any agenda items? Okay, going once, twice, sold. Item 7, consent agenda items, plural. Items 7.01 through 7.10. These are new items. So are there any items, I want to do this a little bit out of order. Are there any items, Chris, you or your team would like to elaborate on since they are new items? Weren't discussed previously.
I don't have anything in reviewing them.
Okay. Then we'll go through, if there's any specific item that a board member would like to discuss further, we can separate those out. Otherwise, we will vote on these items or any remaining items that you do not pull out in a group. So is there any items a board member would like to vote on or discuss separately? Okay. I'm going to ask for 7.09 just because the magnitude of that, and going to ask admin just to make a comment. I don't know if that's going to be Dr. Long or Mr. Bigger.
Yep, Dr.
But we'll do 7.09 separately. Again, just sheer magnitude of that item. So have a motion to approve items 7.01 through 7.10, excluding 7.09.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Walker, second by Dr. Diller. All those in favor signify by...
No, Mrs. Gauss.
Mrs. Gauss, I'm sorry. Motion by Mr. Walker, second by Mrs. Gauss. My apologies. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved. Okay, motion for 7.09, design process for 4-6 intermediate school, 7-8 middle, and a new Grandview Elementary School, AKA the project for schools of distinction by 2030. I'm accelerating the project. Yeah. Let's go. Motion and second, please.
Just did
You just do it?
that. We just did that.
Not 709. We separated that.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by
Ms.
Harbaugh and second by
Me.
Mrs. Gogler.
Point of clarification.
If in doubt, ask question, then you won't make a mistake.
Point of clarification, what are we, I'm sorry.
Just
7.09.
709.
Okay. all
Yeah,
right,
we,
all right.
we separated
I know that,
7.09
yeah.
from the previous group.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
Mr. Bigger, Dr. Long, you want to just, maybe
Sure.
just a quick comment on this?
Sure. Through the process that we've been looking at with the 4 to 6, that's a brand-new building. The 7 and 8 was a renovation at one point, and then we went through the process of looking at renovation versus new, and we decided at the last board meeting to look at new. So with that, we also talked about Grandview being a new project, and in order to get the final cost of these projects, we need to go to bid. So we're looking at the permission to go out to bid. That permission also allows the architects to start billing.
Design, these are
Or
design.
design, rather, I'm sorry, did I just say bid?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
You sped it up too.
Yeah, sorry. Well, he said 27, so I have to get a hurry.
We're
Yeah.
gonna have a fancy logo here sometime soon, too.
Yeah. So it is design, it's a design process. It's quite a lengthy process, but we need to start that.
Okay, and just for clarity, this is, again, we hope it's 240 million all total, or less would be even better, but we don't know, so, just the magnitude. And one thing I just request, once the professionals get into the design, then we can probably start getting some better estimates, not just construction costs, some other things to think about between design and when we go to bid. I think a board discussion needs to be had on, contingency. Are there contingencies in these estimates we've seen? And then there's the contract administration part. Is that in these estimates? And then ultimately, how are we gonna handle the construction inspection and management? I hope that's been in the numbers, but let's just get clarity from our professionals as we get closer. Just keep our eye on how big this project is gonna be. Any other questions or discussions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved. Item 9.01, approval of 2025-26 homestead farmstead exclusion resolution. Motion and second, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Diller, second by Mr. Raber. This is an annual event, but any questions or discussions, comments from board members? Mrs. Stauffer, do we need individual on this one?
We should do that
Okay.
then for the next item, yes.
Yep. No questions, roll call vote, please.
Dr. Diller,
Yes.
Ms. Gogler,
Yes.
Ms. Gauss,
Yes.
Ms. Harbaugh,
Yes.
Mr. Hayduck,
Yes.
Mr. McKee,
Yes.
Mr. Norcross,
Yes.
Mr. Raber,
Yes.
and Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0.
Okay. Item 9.02, approval of the 2025-2026 budget resolution. Motion and second, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gogler, second by Mr. Hayduck. Do you have any additional information to present, Mrs. Stauffer? Or-
The only thing I'd like to highlight, that this proposed budget that was presented as the final does include a plan for our schools of distinction, the 2030 schools of distinction, by including an allocation of just around $7.6 million of extra debt service to start ramping up for that. So I did want to inform the board that we were able at this point to get that built in. That is, of course, utilizing the governor's proposed budget that he presented back in March.
Okay, questions, discussions, comments from board members? 3% tax increase takes our total mills to 136 point, I wrote that down.
Yeah, it's 136.
6.45. I'll give one comment on this. I recommended a additional 1% tax increase, I don't know, 2 months ago. I am not going to go back on that word. That would be very inconsistent of me to do that. However, I will say I do have some concerns since that time on some of how these numbers have changed back and forth. I know we've had previous discussions when we went up 1%, the deficit did not decrease, now it did decrease. There's some previous revenue that is earmarked for future debt service and how that affects this year's budget. So I do have some concern, but I'm going to have to live with those concerns, and hope that this deficit goes away, and at the end of the year it is positive like it has been for quite some time. Okay, roll call vote, Mrs. Stauffer, please.
Ms. Gogler?
Yes.
Ms. Gauss?
Yes.
Ms. Harbaugh?
No.
Mr. Hayduck?
Yes.
Mr. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Norcross?
Yes.
Mr. Raber?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Dr. Diller?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-1.
Okay. Item 11, new business discussion only. Board members, any new items you'd like to have an initial discussion tonight, and maybe future agenda items?
I have a proposal to make in the future, that we hear from the student governments, from CMS and CASHES, and also the Naval Junior ROTC program, which I find to be very interesting and informative. However, I wonder if we might include on the agenda from time to time some reports from the various clubs that are here and active, how they're doing, number of students that are involved, and what kind of challenges they may be facing that the board might consider how we might be able to support them in some way.
Okay. Thoughts and discussions, board members?
I like the idea. That's all I'll say. Thank you. It's good.
It's a good idea also. Obviously, the more information we get, especially coming directly from the students, because I think it's good for us to hear directly from them. Also, I think it also helps them to, whether it's public speaking or whatever, to be able to get up and articulate whatever it is that's going on. So I think it's a great idea.
In the area of budget, I'm hopeful the cyber reform has been voted out of
Hold on,
committee.
let's stay on Mr. Haydick's topic here before we move off of it.
Oh,
Then, just want to make, I guess, I'm not opposed. I guess one thing maybe we can talk through, or administration can come back to us, is we have, how many clubs? A bunch, okay. We'll just say, we have a bunch of clubs, and I think it's probably an unwritten rule, but maybe it needs to be elaborated on, or expanded upon, I should say, that, of course, any club can probably make a request to come and present at any time, or how that would happen. Some clubs are more active than others. Are you suggesting like a set schedule, or is it just an open invitation? I guess one concern I have, we don't want to have, I'm going to go real wild and crazy, we don't want to have 30 clubs report one night, or something like that. But
I think you'd be able to see if there's interest in that, because they might not want to. I don't think it needs to be something compelling, at least not for mine. If you say, hey, here's an opportunity for you guys to present, and some of them want to come and some of them don't, that's cool. But then I think at that point, say you get, how many clubs do you have ballpark, Mark? 150? 200, 3,000, come on, man.
100
Yeah,
plus,
100.
80 to 100.
So you have 100 clubs, and say half of them come back, then throughout the year, you could probably stagger them, maybe 2 each, you know what I mean? Because we have 2 meetings, or you know what I'm saying? So I'm sure a schedule could be worked out, but I don't think it should be something compulsory, like give it to them if they want to come, not like, hey, you guys have to present in front of the school board. 'Cause
What I would suggest, and I would say, I saw this in another district, that the student government reports added some clubs who wanted to provide information, and they just went over, hey, the following clubs submitted information, here's their update on their behalf. The second avenue is the new policy, when we do pass it, that we might have a student representative sitting at the end of the table. So if we do end up saying yes to that policy, that there's a student who's representing the body at our table, we can ask that certain student to go get that information and provide it to us as well. So I think there's a couple avenues for that. Should the board want that?
I was suggesting it was just going to be manageable, not, you know,
This is a possibility of them even, encouraging them, hey, if you have something to even show up during the public comment, for them to voice their opinion then too, so.
My thought would be that I'm sure there are several clubs that are more relevant to what's happening in the classroom. For example, an ecology club or STEM club. So we can see how the students are benefiting or tying together what they're doing in the classroom with what they're doing in their clubs. You know, the school district should be, and we're moving that way, the heartbeat of the community. It's a give and take. So I think it's important for the community to hear how our students are living their lives through their activities and clubs.
Not worried about that.
Yeah, I like when they do the student government, but sometimes they're doing it like the day after they did something that we could have gone and helped with a fundraiser or something like that. So being able to have that information for different clubs, not that you can get to everything, but they'd come in and they'd be like, oh, yesterday we had this fundraiser. And I was like, well, I could have gone to Fuddruckers, or not anymore, clearly. But, you know, whatever it was that they were. Yeah, that would have been a good one, right? That's the one that stuck in my head for some reason. But, you know, just to have that information available to us, that way, if, you know, if we do want to help and, you know, contribute in that way, we could do that.
Yeah, good discussion. Chris and the administration team, they'll put something together and report back to the board how we would do it. Just one comment. I don't think we want to do it as part of public comment, because one thing with public comment, that's not a discussion period. It needs to be I would suggest it be just a regular presentation, and then we can ask questions and discuss it and actually have a dialogue, which we don't do with public comment. Okay. Mrs. Gogler, you have an item.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that we are seeing some movement on the cyber school reform. It has been voted out of the Education Committee, and so there's some hope potentially. I just encourage people, not just the board members, but the public, to be getting on their representatives to support that cyber school reform.
Okay. And then one item I have, I'm going to go back to schools of distinction. Mrs. Stauffer mentioned it when we approved our budget resolution, item 9.02. And I've mentioned this document before, and it was the presentation from Mr. Fry back in April with that, what I think is a very valuable chart. I'd love to get that back out to discuss it as a board. One, I'd like to see it again. I'd love to get it in front of other board members and get it out to the public. Where we're starting at, you know, this plus 1%, by my math, we have accrued 3.8 mils with the 1%. Because keep in mind, 1% isn't 1 mil. Like, for instance, 1% is 1.3 mils. We've done this for 3 years, so we've almost gotten 4 mils with doing this incremental increase. And, you know, you see the previous chart, it showed a 2.2% increase beginning next year, I think. But, and then adequacy, how much of this is adequacy funding? And we all anticipate that's going to maintain. But just like to refresh that data now as we're getting closer and closer to going to bid, and probably here in the fall, there'll be a resolution for a bond issue anyway coming forward.
Correct.
Any other topics, board members?
I just had one. We did put at the bottom of this agenda, so if you want to talk about it before adjournment, we did to put the LIU report, the Franklin Learning Center, and Career Tech Center reports that we have on there, just in case anybody wanted to highlight something. So I didn't know where to put them, so we just put them on there, just as an FYI. So
Okay, that's a good point. Ben had an item first. Ben, go ahead.
My item was that. My question is, why are they always after we adjourn?
Yeah.
Sometimes we adjourn and then we have this really interesting, informative stuff that sometimes we have reports on. And can
if
we
you're okay,
flip
I'll just
flop
move
them?
13 down to below information.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, there are times like an enrollment summary, I think typically can stay after the meeting because we're not actually talking about it.
Right.
But if board members have reports, I'd love to hear that before we adjourn.
So.
Yes, sir.
I can say a couple words about the Franklin Learning Center.
Take it away.
So, one item that generated a lot of discussion early on, but now has been resolved and restated again, that there was a swimming pool there that hasn't been in operation for quite some time. And they're not going to reopen the pool. They're going to utilize that space for classroom instruction. The other item would be on, I think it was 27th of May, the Franklin Learning Center had their graduation. And if anybody has never attended one, first, it's very entertaining. You just don't know what is going to happen. But two, it's probably one of the most inspiring events that I've attended. To see these kids that have so many challenges achieving a graduation is totally awesome. And the families there are loving every minute of it, so I would encourage y'all to check it out. It's a great event.
Okay. Other reports? Ms. Harbaugh, Mrs. Gogler?
I'm kind of getting it as you guys are, because unfortunately with the change in our meetings, it's the same night as LIU. So I get a report. I haven't been able to go to the past two because it's conflicted with our change in meeting. As far as I know, Dr. Marchese is still hitting the ground running. He's moving fast, and I think a lot of people are trying to catch up. But he has a plan, he has a purpose, and I'm really excited about where he's trying to take the LIU as far as how that will benefit Chambersburg and the other districts. He's really focusing on what is it you need, what is it can we do for you, what services can we offer. And I think, Tammy, you and I spoke about this, the way that they're going to be doing billing in the future is going to be much better than, oh, here's a bill, or here's a refund, or it's going to be, here's the service, here's the cost, and he's really going to streamline that, and I think we're going to see dividends across the IU as far as what he's trying to do and the positions and the moves that he's making. It seems like everybody's on board with the cabinet and things like that. We've been going over some just different policies like we do, hazing, different stuff like that, just cleaning up some language. But other than that, in the next couple months, I think he just helped with the superintendent search, IU,
he did.
for Tuscarora. So they're looking at different services they can offer the districts instead of just, the educational piece.
We have a 4-hour meeting tomorrow, the county superintendents, to talk about the Learning Center future programming and letting Shippensburg in, and Phantom Metal doesn't send any students, and they're paying the debt. So we're trying to figure that out. So it's, again, to your point, he's helping solve our problems.
As far as the Career Tech program is concerned, they had a senior recognition event, which was very, very significant. The number of awards and things that were, the attendance was amazing. Also, they're starting 3 new programs this upcoming year. Small animal protective services and industrial painting.
Spring semester.
Yeah,
Yep.
right, it's spring semester, but it's this upcoming school year.
Okay. Any questions on any of the informational reports? No other topics? We will be adjourned. Thank you.